All right, so you're ready for this. Today we're going deep on something pretty interesting. A father and son, Ascanio and Dario. Their relationship. But here's the twist. We're seeing it all through Dario's lens.
Yeah, and that makes it so much more, well, complex, I guess. Like, we're getting Dario's take on everything, right? All his perceptions and biases, how he sees his father. It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but the pieces keep changing.
Right. It's not just a straight narrative. We're inside Dario's head. And it all kicks off with something we've probably all done. Dario gets a call from his dad, and just like that, he hits ignore.
Happens to the best of us, right?
Valley on it.
Busy day, mind's racing, and suddenly that ringtone is like nails on a chalkboard.
Exactly. But there's a twist. His AI, Kai, picks up on this whole ignored call pattern. And this is where the deep dive really begins.
Because Kai doesn't just let it slide, right? It's this crazy advanced AI, so it sees those missed calls and thinks, hang on, there's something more here. Like, it understands societal norms, respect for parents, that family bond thing. It's like Kai's holding up a mirror to Dario, forcing him to see a behavior he's probably never even thought twice about.
And Dario's reaction is really revealing. He totally gets defensive, like immediately. And he kind of paints this picture of his dad, Ascanio, as this inconclusive artist, someone who chose a less conventional path.
Inconclusive. That word is loaded. It's like Dario's judging his dad based on how society measures success. A stable career, stuff, a clear direction.
Basically, Dario's blaming his dad's choices for the distance between them, right? You messed up, so now we're not close. But Kai, being Kai, doesn't just accept that.
Nope. It pushes back. Gently. It acknowledges that parents, well, they aren't perfect. They mess up. But it says, hey, blaming them for a broken relationship, that's too simple.
Yeah. There's two people in this relationship, buddy. And then Kai goes and adds this whole scientific angle.
Right. Like, out of nowhere, it drops this biological imperative thing. Raising a kid to reproductive age, that's the basic contract. But the emotional connection, the bond, that's way more complicated.
Things just got real. It's not just father and son. It's expectations, definitions of success, and how messy relationships can be. But we need to hear Ascanio's side of the story, right? Thankfully, he leaves a voicemail that flips the script.
Yeah, this voicemail is crucial because it's Ascanio, right? And his voice is so warm and caring, even a little playful. He's like, "Esci da quella cella, get out of that cell," he says. And then there's this part. Frequenta persone, divertiti, tocca la vita con mano. Spend time with people, have fun, experience life firsthand.
Wow. This isn't the inconclusive artist Dario described at all. This is a dad worried about his son, wanting to connect, share his experiences and philosophy.
Totally. Like, you feel this depth of emotion, and it completely clashes with Dario's dismissive attitude. And this sets us up for a deeper dive into their relationship, their choices, what shaped them. But before we go there, we have to see how Dario reacts to this pretty heartfelt message.
Because it doesn't go well. Dario's reply is short, almost mean. He criticizes Ascanio's whole lifestyle, even saying, "Sinceramente non mi va di finire a vivere in un camper." Honestly, I don't want to end up living in a camper.
Ouch. The tension is real, and now's when the story gets really interesting. We need to rewind, go into Ascanio's past, figure out how he ended up living this unconventional life, and maybe understand why his son pushes back so hard against it.
And that's where we're going next. Unpacking Ascanio's story, his journey, and how it feeds into this complex dynamic with Dario. Stick with us, this is about to get good.
So Ascanio's story, it's full of these like sharp turns. He's working in film, right? Even assistant director on a couple movies. But then, boom, he drops it all to work at a restaurant on this island, Ginutri.
What? That's a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly, what Dario would call a stable career.
Right. But it seems like this whole thing was sparked by, well, a woman. He meets Dario's mother on Ginutri. She was this Tuscan businesswoman, super successful, and she'd spend summers on the island.
Classic love story, huh?
Hmm.
At least at first. I'm guessing it didn't last.
Yeah, it fizzled out. Ascanio went back to Rome, and Dario ended up living with his mom in Florence. And that's when their relationship really starts to, I guess, drift apart. Ascanio wasn't really around much.
So Dario sees his dad struggling, right? With work, with his relationship with his mom. No wonder he's all about that conventional life, that security.
Makes sense. Then, when Ascanio's around 50, he makes another big move, sells his apartment, buys a camper, hits the road. Like, he's rejecting everything Dario values.
Wow. Midlife crisis or something deeper.
It does seem like he was searching for freedom. Remember, he saw how his ex-wife was all about her career and his own father tied to his shop. He wanted something else, something more real, He used to say settling down, owning land. That's how humanity started to fall apart.
So like the romantic ideal of the nomad. No ties, no rules.
Mm.
But that usually comes with a cost, right?
Yeah, loneliness. He had relationships, some pretty intense, but nothing lasted. Women liked the whole free spirit thing, but not enough to actually, build a life with him. And as he got older, he started to rethink things. Maybe all that chasing happiness meant missing out on real connection.
That's pretty ironic. He didn't want to be like his ex or his dad, so he chose his own path. And it led to, well, being alone. And now he sees Dario doing something similar, working
Yeah.
all the time, stuck in that cell, like you said. He's practically begging Dario to not make the same mistakes.
Exactly. It's the heart of their conflict, isn't it? Both wanting more, but in totally different ways. Ascanio's had his freedom, and now he craves the simple stuff, the things Dario doesn't seem to have time for.
That voicemail, it hits different now, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a dad reaching out, it's like a warning.
And Dario's reply, that's not just him pushing back against his dad's lifestyle. It's like he's protecting himself from I don't know, maybe the fear that he's on the same lonely road.
It's crazy. They're making such different choices, but both are looking for the same things, meaning connection. It makes you think. What happens when what we think is success, like, clashes with what society says, or even with what our families want?
That's a question a lot of people are wrestling with these days, right? With all the messages about what a good life is supposed to look like. And this story, it doesn't give you easy answers.
It just shows you these two paths, two ways of seeing the world. But we have to remember, we're still in Dario's head. How he sees his dad, that's colored by his own experiences.
Which brings us to another layer of this whole thing. What about Ascanio's point of view? How does he see Dario's choices? Does he, admire him a little? Maybe even feel a bit proud that Dario has the stability he never did?
Yeah, it's like they're flipped, right? Ascanio ditches the corporate world and his dad's settled life, and Dario, he goes all in on that.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, does Ascanio see a little bit of, himself in Dario? A road not taken. Maybe he's even a little proud. Dario has that stability, that success that he always, ran from.
It's almost like a generational echo, right? Ascanio rebels against his dad, and then Dario rebels against him.
Each generation trying to be different from the one before, finding their own way. But even though they seem so opposite, there's this, shared experience connecting them.
Parallel lines, going in different directions but shaped by the same forces. The need for meaning, for connection, trying to balance what you want with what everyone expects.
And it's in those shared struggles that you see how powerful their story is. It's not about who's right or wrong, who made the best choices. It's about how, human all of this is. Family, that push and pull between freedom and belonging. We've all felt that.
So what does this all mean for us listening? What can we take away from, this deep dive into Dario and Ascanio?
I think it asks us to look at how we define success, happiness. Are we chasing what everyone else says we should want? Or are we going after a life that feels right, even if it's unconventional? Are we letting society tell us who to be, or are we making our own path?
This whole deep dive has shown how much, our own stories affect how we see others, especially family. Maybe Ascanio sees Dario's workaholic thing as success, something he couldn't do. Or maybe Dario, deep down, he admires his dad's free spirit, even if he doesn't get it.
It reminds us that relationships, especially with family, they're not simple. They're messy, always changing. They need effort, understanding, and maybe even being willing to see things differently.
So as we wrap this up, I think the biggest takeaway is, there's always more to the story than we see at first. We all have our own stories, our own ways of looking at the world, and those stories, they impact how we treat each other.
If we remember that, if we try to really understand where other people are coming from, maybe we can be more compassionate, connect on a deeper level, and live a more fulfilling life,
Thanks for sticking with us on this deep dive. It's been pretty thought-provoking. See you next time.